Hey everybody, it's RJ, your host, and welcome to Hash It Out. In this episode, I'll be speaking with John Marshall of Deep Roots Harvest about the recent opening of their first cannabis dispensary location in Las Vegas, Nevada, and cannabis customer trends in the state. We'll also talk about the latest cannabis bill approved in Nevada, which, among other things, paves the way for cannabis consumption lounges and funding K-12 education, as well as the prospect of federal cannabis policy reform and more. Without further ado, let's hash it out. My guest today is the Chief Operating Officer of the cannabis company Deep Roots Harvest. Welcome to the show, John Marshall. Hello, sir.
Hey, thank you very much, RJ.
Hey, man, thanks for being here. Where are you joining us virtually from today? It looks like you're in some sort of a kitchen space.
Yeah, I'm in my apartment down in Las Vegas, downtown Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, right on. I got family living over in Summerlin, so not too far.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, right on. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for being here today. I'm looking forward to asking you about all you've got going on over in Deep Roots Harvest, of course, and also some of the news in the state of Nevada and also on a federal level, how that might affect y'all over at Deep Roots and all that you've got planned in the future. So diving right into it, speaking of what you've got planned and what has already happened, in June, Deep Roots Harvest announced the opening of its first Las Vegas location on the city's northwest side, which is right by a Planet Fitness that I've actually been to once or twice. It's the first of 4 Deep Roots locations to open in Las Vegas by February of 2022. You said that the opening of this first Vegas location will allow y'all to get, quote, feedback from customers on how your products fit into their lifestyle, and that you've used, quote, insight from customers like this at all of your Nevada locations so far to better understand and serve the community. So that being said, what have you learned so far from the community in Nevada about what they dislike and what they like when it comes to cannabis products? What are you noticing in terms of trends?
Well, it's interesting, actually. So our first 2 stores, one was open in Mesquite, Nevada, which is up on the St. George border outside of Utah there. And then our West Wendover store is outside of Salt Lake. And both of those stores have done really well with concentrates, specifically vape cartridges, of course, and then a ton of like gummies, some edibles, topicals, tinctures. Both of those communities, well, especially Mesquite, is more of a retirement golf community, so we see a lot of topicals and tinctures and gummies, sleep aids, kind of stuff. And now that we're in Vegas and Reno, we're seeing a little bit of a shift more towards flower products. We're seeing a lot of flower and pre-rolls moving out of our North Las Vegas store. So that's kind of something new for us. I mean, we've always moved flower and pre-rolls, obviously, but concentrates have always been a real heavy hitter for us, and we're seeing that tweak a little bit.
Wow. Okay. And this is you mentioning that just brought this to my mind. I was looking at the news today, and I saw that I know you don't have operations in New Jersey as of yet, at least, but New Jersey they just prohibited the sale of edibles that look specifically like food items. I think they said, quote unquote, edibles resembling food are now prohibited. So I hope that doesn't spread to other states such as Nevada. But what are the implications of something like that, do you think?
Yeah, that'd be huge. I mean, that'd be really problematic. And how do you define, food? It's so vague. Right. And, that's something you see in cannabis all the time. Is just sort of, regulators want to try to control the market. And as the market evolves and develops, I think you see sort of that give and take, right, in the regulatory environment. And you see pushback from not only the manufacturers, but the consumers. And then you see the regulators, and you end up meeting in the middle. And, that's what's been really fun for us, is to figure out how that works and how to have a voice and how to provide feedback. And, I think we're all supportive of keeping this stuff like out of kids and, not advertising to certain demographics. Here in Nevada, we're not allowed to use fruit on packaging or on advertising. We're not allowed to, target specifically to kids with cartoons or, like animal cracker type looking products. So, we're all super supportive of that. But at the same time, a gummy's a gummy. And, there's gummy products and all sorts of pharmaceuticals. So I think that it's only fair that we can pursue those also.
Certainly, certainly. And, in the state of Nevada, the recreational cannabis market has been in effect for over 3 years now. And you mentioned, of course, that Deep Roots Harvest Cannabis is locally grown and operated in Mesquite, Nevada, nestled just along the Arizona Utah state line, Nevada state line, right there. And so I can only imagine that you have a fair amount of traffic coming in and customers coming in from those other states that might not necessarily have as much accessibility to cannabis as the state of Nevada does. So, what are the differences that you see between local Nevadans and the tourist market in terms of, again, consumer trends, likes, dislikes, preferences, and things like that?
We've always targeted really kind of the local consumer. Our new stores are really in local. We're not targeting the tourists. We're not down on the strip. Even in Reno, we're not like in the downtown area of Reno. We're more in the suburbs on the south end of Reno. And so we've really tried
Sure.
to get into the communities and try to find areas within the community that are underserved. And so I'll be honest, we don't track the tourism market nearly as well as we do just sort of the everyday person. We want people to come to our store and get to know our team and get to know our products and then come back and be repeat customers. We're not looking for that one-time tourist. So I think, when you look at trends, they've held pretty strong since we've opened because we do cater to that, recurring customer that's frequently visiting us.
Certainly, certainly. And, in the state of Nevada, so keeping it local to Nevada then, there was notably a recent bill that was passed in June in the state of Nevada. Notably, it includes a lot of things, but one of the most buzzworthy parts of that bill was a new way for the cannabis industry in Nevada to reach consumers with cannabis consumption lounges. Of course, the state legislature in June approved a bill that creates two types of licenses for cannabis consumption lounges, and the prospect of a 2022 launch came to light when the state's interim finance committee approved funding to assist the Cannabis Compliance Board in overseeing the new lounges. That's, of course, according to the Nevada Independent. So, just overall, generally, what are your thoughts on that news? Does Deep Roots have any sort of plans in terms of cannabis lounges? Are you going to jump on this opportunity, or are you going to kind of see how it plays all out?
Yeah, we're excited about consumption lounges in general. I think everybody's, especially down on the strip, people are looking for a way to consume when they're in town. And
Sure.
then I think you're also seeing people even in the communities, right? They want to go imbibe with their friends and their buddies and go watch some music. And I think that this is a really neat opportunity to create that environment. I think what's kind of TBD is what that environment looks like, and we're probably going to move a little bit slower than some companies. Some companies like Planet 13, I'm sure, are going to jump right in, really start catering to the tourist market, and they have big stores. We're going to probably evaluate. We have 7 retail locations, and we have a lounge license that we can park on one of those 7. So we're going to be talking to the local jurisdictions to see, who might actually want the lounge, what neighborhoods are going to be most conducive to that lounge, and then what actually is the business model behind that lounge. We're still kind of trying to wrap our arms around what our interpretation of a lounge would look like.
Totally. And the rules and regulations in terms of cannabis legislation in states where it is legal, it varies so much. You cross a state border and it might be legal in both states, but perhaps you can grow in this state, you can't grow in this state. You can consume publicly in this state, but you can't in most states. So could you just explain to me, because I'm not sure what the regulations are in Nevada. Are you allowed to consume publicly or not? Because if not, these cannabis consumption lounges are even more important than ever.
Yeah, you're not allowed to consume publicly. Of course, you're seeing it on just walking around. You can see people, and I think the police have taken a softer approach towards ticketing folks. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to provide people with a better venue to consume. And so everybody's supportive of this. We're super excited to see it happen. And I think
For
we're
sure.
going to see probably a dozen of them pop up probably this spring all over Vegas. And it'll be really interesting to see how those play out.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, we'll have to meet up at one at some point, do a rehash it out,
Yeah,
live
absolutely.
on site at a lounge somewhere. That'd be dope.
Yep.
That same bill that was approved in June, which was geared toward again the consumption lounges, but also diversifying the state's cannabis industry. It also provides funding from cannabis sales to the state's K through 12 education. And you mentioned briefly just a few minutes ago the importance of being involved in the community and doing your part to give back and foster that community that you're serving. So tell me more about the importance of a company such as Deep Roots Harvest in terms of being an active part in that community. How important is it to play an active role in the community?
Yeah, we're constantly trying to do things. Just actually last week up in Mesquite, we did a highway cleanup. A lot of our products are ending up on the shoulder, and we feel obligated to take care of the roads around our stores. We're pretty involved in the Mesquite's Arts District down in North Las Vegas. We're getting more involved there with some charity work. Um, Economic Development Board, we have some members serving on that. Um, the Prevention Coalition Committee, Mesquite Works Board, we're pretty involved in the community in general. I sit on the Nevada Dispensary Association board, which is pretty active in just overall lobbying for the industry. Getting things like packaging requirements, distribution, the new lounge licenses, we were really involved in a lot of that language and that, regulatory approval process. So I think just being out there in the community and obviously our employees are all local to our stores. We try to hire really closely from the community and, paying fair wages, offering benefits, doing what we can to be good partners in the communities that we serve.
Certainly, certainly. And I mentioned at the top of our interview that Deep Roots recently opened its first Las Vegas dispensary location. And you have more planned up until February 2022. So that being said, what are you looking forward to? What have you got in the works over at Deep Roots Harvest? And how are things going at that first dispensary location in Vegas so far?
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff going on. So we were awarded 5 new licenses in this last licensing round of 2018, and they're all due to be open before February. So we have the Reno one just opened, our North Las Vegas that you spoke of just opened, and then we have one in Henderson coming down the pipe, one in the city of Las Vegas that's actually pretty close to Summerlin and will service Summerlin, and then one in Clark County, which is kind of on the south end of the strip down off of Blue Diamond. And 3 of those are under construction and hopefully opening by the end of the year. And then we also have a production expansion in the works for our kitchen and our edibles and our vape carts and dabs and all that stuff. And then a cultivation upgrade where we're adding a bunch of lighting equipment, some new dehumidification, some HVAC equipment, and hoping to boost our capabilities there. So, constantly kind of joke around. We're in perpetual construction. We've been in construction since the day I started in cannabis, and it seems to never end, it's great. Like we like growing and building, and we're excited to bring the brands to Vegas.
Man, perpetual construction. I like that phrase. That reminds me of the strip of the I-5 that I live right next to. It's always under perpetual
Yeah.
construction. At least that's what it seems like. Right on, man. So again, your first dispensary location in Vegas opened. How was the reception of that?
It's a pretty small store. It's our smallest footprint. And we're getting a good sense of the community and the neighborhood. We've had to adjust, like I was talking earlier. Flower is a bigger product than concentrate, so we're getting our pricing dialed in there, figuring out what kind of consumer comes to our shop. There's a festival, I guess an amphitheater park down the street, so it's drawing a lot of people in for music. And there's a big Cypress Hill concert last week, so we saw a nice bump from that.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to engage in some of those and see where we can draw some more consumers from.
Totally. And then, drawing the scope out of Nevada and to a federal level, this year, the talk of federal cannabis policy reform or updating has certainly picked up. With the advancement of the Safe Banking Act, which is currently stalling in the Senate but passed the House, the recently introduced federal decriminalization bill that has been confused with legalization a lot from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and, of course, Senator Ron Wyden and Cory Booker. There's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of swirling rumors here and there about what might happen on a federal level. How do you see all of this playing out, and how would federal cannabis policy reform, whether it be full legalization or just decriminalization or safe banking, how would any of that affect y'all over at Deep Roots Harvest? And are you hopeful for any of that actually coming to fruition?
Yeah, of course, we'd like to see all, decriminalization being a huge one, safe banking being a huge one. I think those are the two big ones we'd like to see is, now that people are making money off of this plant, we'd really like to see the decriminalization nationally. Banking, of course, we do have some banking here in Nevada, but it's not easy. All of our projects are financed internally. We're not taking loans out to finance our projects. And that's certainly a barrier to entry for a lot of smaller companies that are trying to start up. Dealing with cash, there's still a ton of companies that are dealing fully in cash. Our consumers at our stores are having to deal with cash. We don't currently offer debit or credit. So, there's still a lot of just improvements that could be made there. And I think that they would ultimately lead to a lot of a safer environment for employees and consumers and just the industry. When you look at the bigger picture of legalization, I think it's a little bit of a can of worms, and it's kind of hard to tell which way the wind's blowing. One thing that I don't
Yeah.
think's happening anytime soon is interstate commerce. I don't personally see that one happening. And I think that that's to everyone's advantage. I think it gives the smaller folks time to really ramp up and get some valuation under their company before the big folks come in with these huge, monster farms and big outdoor farms and huge greenhouse operations. So, I'm hopeful that, things take their time in that regard, but I would sure like to see decriminalization and safe banking come sooner than later.
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. And we're holding out hope, that's for sure. Sometimes, more often than not, things can move pretty slow in our federal judicial process, or legislative process, rather. But we will be keeping an eye out on it and hoping for the best, that's for sure. My last question for you before I let you go, and thank you so much for your time and sharing all of that insight as to what's happening over in Nevada, a very important market and a lot of news happening. My last question for y'all is, where can our viewers and our listeners keep up with y'all and all you've got going on over at Deep Roots Harvest? And where can our local Nevadans and Utahns and Arizonans, where can we find y'all?
Yeah, so our easiest is always the website, deeprootsharvest.com. We're getting ready to launch a new online purchasing and ordering platform this fall. So hopefully that'll kind of dovetail into all of our social media. We do have Instagram. You can find us, of course, Deep Roots Harvest NV, I believe, is our handle. And hopefully we continue to roll that out with social media. Get Twitter going and Snapchat and some of those. But right now, our website and Instagram are the best way to find us.
Totally. Were those, just quick side note, were those online services in the works already? Was that something, because, the pandemic, of course, in particular, remember that, anyone? We're in a pandemic, but has certainly, facilitated faster development for a lot of online services or cannabis delivery services or curbside pickup services. So was that something that you had in the works already? And if not, was the pandemic, did it act as a catalyst to sort of, prioritize that?
Yeah, it was definitely a catalyst. Here in Nevada, we were forced to shut down. And then initially when we reopened, we were only able to do curbside and delivery. And so we sort of had to get our ducks in a row and figure that how to crack that nut. And then once we started doing that, we realized that we really didn't have a great platform to do that. And as we move into Vegas, it's just going to be more and more competitive. And I think, you guys know, like the way consumers are shopping these days is way different than it was 2 years ago. I think people, they love the ease of online. They love a good menu. They love to be able to go and see what their ticket total is going to be and build a shopping cart and, share shopping carts with their friends. And I think things like just being at the top of that is going to be really important. So it's certainly the pandemic sort of initiated it, and now just watching the way the world's working, it's just reinforced that sort of need to move in that direction. And so hopefully we can get all that stuff launched and really get a nice robust, we want to do VIP and rewards, and you can go online and see our specials coming down the pipe and really create this, e-commerce experience for people that's, it dovetails into our retail experience pretty well.
Certainly. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, John, thank you so much for your time, man. We will certainly be keeping an eye on everything happening, of course, in Nevada on a federal level and over at Deep Roots Harvest. Thank you so much for your time and offering all of your insights. And I wish you all of the best in all you've got going on over there, man.
Thanks, RJ. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. John Marshall, everybody. Thank y'all. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's it for Hash It Out, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I'm your host, RJ Balde, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out our channel. Click here to watch another episode of Hash It Out. To find more cannabis industry reporting, insider stories, and to stay up to date on the latest trends, make sure to subscribe and keep up with our Trichomes community app. Download it now for free, and we'll see you there.